So when you're working with a semi-auto, this is not a revolver. Revolver is a little different. When you talk about where you place your trigger finger on the trigger, with a revolver, that ends up being back here at that first knuckle right there. For semi-auto, what you want to do is you actually want to see that little fatty part right there, and that's where you want the placement of your trigger. If you end up placing the trigger too far forward or too far back, you're going to have a difference in the placement of the round, or the bullet on the target.
So Next Level Training puts out a gun. This is actually the 110 model, they call it, and it is actually called the SIRT, shot indicating resetting trigger. This particular model is the 110. It's an exact dimension replication of a Glock 17. All right, so this is a Glock 17 or Glock 22. It's the same frame.
The full size.
All right, it's the full size Glock. It's not a compact. All right, so I'm going to describe some of the cool features about this gun. First of all, if you got a Glock 22 or Glock 17 holster, this will snap right into it.
Okay.
All right. And so you don't need to have any special holsters while you're training with this gun. You can train with the exact same holster that you use if that model matches your gun. What ends up happening is you got a switch on top. All right. When you pull this trigger, you get a red laser. That's your shot indicator. All right. So that is fairly simple. When you pull that trigger, that laser is going to go exactly where you got those sights lined up. And it is adjustable. You can dial it in for different distances, however you want to do it. So it is totally adjustable. They give you the tools to do that. The cool thing is when you flip this switch back.
Okay.
All right. So now, once that switch is backwards in the backwards position, as you go to pull that trigger, I have not shot yet. You have a light that comes on and then a shot light.
Okay.
All right. So what that tells me is that trigger is engaged at that point, right? Trigger reset is a very fundamental thing that you need to know to improve your shooting. All right. So the way we use this part of the tool is this. You can pull the trigger. Once you get the trigger, your finger on the trigger till the wall, the light comes on. If you move it past the wall, the light goes off. So now with both lights on, you get the first light, the second light. Get your reset without letting that second light go out, because if it goes out, you went past the wall. So instead of slapping the trigger every time you shoot, you can train yourself and your grip and your muscle memory to go straight to that reset and no further. Don't let that bottom light go out.
Okay.
With rapid shots.
Now, where can somebody pick one of these up at?
So the company actually sells them online. Next Level Training. You can go online. You can see all the different models they present. There's a lot of options.
So generally, like if somebody was just to buy them online, generally, what would they run as far as the different models? Is there a difference in prices as far as models, or just like a standard model like this?
Okay, so they come in a couple different versions. Actually, my wife got one that has a metal slide.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more accurate to the weight of a Glock.
Okay.
But it's just a metal piece that goes on here. That'll run you about another $100. You can get, they're making several different models right now. They got like a pocket gun, which kind of simulates maybe like a smaller SIG. Same thing, but it's a pocket gun. So it's going to be smaller. Me and my wife are big fans of Glock. Most of the guns we have are Glock. She does have some exceptions to that, but all my guns are Glock. So all of our guns are actually double stacked 9mm Glocks.
Okay.
And they're the various sizes, but we did that with the intent of there's no problem where ammunitions, magazines are all interchangeable. It comes in very handy when two people in your house are shooting to keep everything exactly the same. Right? There's no guesswork. Did I grab the 45? Did I grab the 40? Nope, it's all 9mm. And we're both comfortable with the 9mm. So when you're training with this, a couple other features you should probably know. Removable magazine.
Okay.
You can feel that magazine, there's a lot of weight to it.
Yeah.
That's the majority of the weight to this gun.
Okay.
All right? But with
Which
that
gives you that realistic feel.
Well, and the good thing is you can actually train with this gun doing emergency reloads as well.
Okay.
Right? Count your shots, however many rounds. California, everybody carries 10 rounds, right? Except for some exceptions. But you can actually do training in your backyard with this gun. It makes no noise. You can set up targets in your backyard. I got my targets in my backyard set up underneath the patio where there's some shade so I can actually see the red light in the daylight.
Tell me about the app that you use with it.
Yeah, so there's a free phone app. It's put out by iTarget. They sell you a whole system, but it's built to pick up a laser.
Okay.
So they sell you the gun, the targets, everything, the whole system, but the app is free. That app also picks up this laser.
Okay.
So when you download that app to your phone, it takes a little bit, there's a little bit of a learning curve to figure out how to set it up on your target. So you take your phone, you place it on the target with your camera on the target on a tripod next to the target. You can step back 15 yards I got marked off in my backyard. And as you shoot that target, your phone will actually, when it picks up a laser, it'll make a shot sound like boom. And so you can shoot rapid boom, 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 boom. And as you walk up, the target's obviously not going to have any holes in it because of the laser.
Right.
But your phone will have bullet holes in the target where you hit the target.
That is awesome.
So it shows you where you hit.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you get the pro version, which I got, it'll give you a random timer, and it'll actually time from the beep when the shot went off.
Okay.
All right.
Outstanding.
So you can do quick draw stuff in your backyard. How quick can I get it out on target and different distances? And like I said, the only thing that's going to go boom is your phone. And unless you got some real nosy neighbors like, hey, what's that boom, boom? Because it's not loud. I like to use it in my backyard with a Bluetooth headset in.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're suggesting not to hook it up to your surround sound system.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But with that system, I'm saying in the backyard, I've set it up in the house, coming down the master bedroom, down the hallway, put the target, everything down there. Just training inside. What's my limitations?
Now, one of the things that we do though is when we're training inside the house like that, because one of the big deals is watch your real gun. You don't want to ever have a problem where you pick up your gun that has ammo in it and think, oh, it's the SIRT gun, and weird things happen. Murphy shows up everywhere, right? So when we're doing stuff like that, we prep our house so that all live ammo, all live guns, they're locked away. We're not getting to them. All we have are the SIRT guns. Otherwise, we're not going to be clearing our house with our actual guns, which is nice because when we change everything else out, we know that we have a safe environment where we're training realistically. Whereas when you're using your gun for dry fire, one of the things that you have to do every single time that you pull that trigger, you end up having to break your form to rack that slide, right? So that you can have that trigger press again. And with this, that's not the case. And so you never break your form as you're actually training. But by breaking your form, that actually can create another muscle memory in your shooting platform that can be detrimental as well. So we found this to be a huge.
This is a big event. Let's talk cost savings.
Okay.
A little bit. All right. So if you go online, this particular model probably run you about $250 after shipping and everything from Next Level Training. All right. People say, well, that's kind of expensive for just a plastic gun with a laser in it, and I understand that. However, for that $250, how many rounds can you buy for your gun?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially
And so
now.
if I was to go in the backyard, I'm telling you, I've done it before. I can spend an hour in the backyard, put 500 rounds down range with my phone, the app, doing very good training, and I have spent zero at that point past the initial expense of the gun. And that's just one training session. Now you have this where you can use it anywhere. Anywhere. Like I said, it's an inert gun. Just be careful. Not when you're training with this, you have to have a sterile environment. You guys understand what that means.
Exactly.
Right? It needs to be sterile.
So let me ask him though. We're talking dry fire versus live fire, right? Everybody likes live fire because you got the boom and the bang. What do you think your percentage of dry fire should be? Actually 80 to 90% dry fire to
You should only be
live
doing
fire.
10% live fire.
So here's what happens with your average shooter. You come out here, and most of them, as you said, you know, very little dry fire happens. So they come out here and they pick up their gun, and once again, I've got my my laser gun here, and they press the trigger. And you think in terms of right here, that's just a click sound, right? Because this is that dry fire. I can do this all day long, and it's not going to freak me out. But if you hear an unexpected bang, anywhere, car backfires, something like that, we go into an automatic response of a startle, right? And so now if you start marrying that startle response, that sound, to every time you're pulling the trigger, then you're going to be moving the gun as you're actually pulling the trigger, and that causes what they call a flinch. You might see it if you're a right-handed shooter and you start seeing that low left pattern that's going up on your target. Mm-hmm. So what's happening is you've conditioned yourself that every time you pull that trigger, you're going to anticipate the bang. You move the gun. You're not thinking, I'm going to move the gun, because who wants to do that? It messes up your target, right? Even to the point where you unload the gun altogether and you pull the trigger in a dry fire setting, and you'll watch people and they'll totally bounce the gun every single time if they have developed that flinch.
Yeah.
So the way to get over that is more dry fire. Because now what you want to do is you want to associate that pulling of the trigger with a click, not the bang. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so since we're talking about
dry fire,
startle response and dry fire, I'm going to show you guys these. These are dummy rounds. Mm-hmm. These are inert rounds. They're a metal case with a plastic core. There's no gunpowder. There's no primer. There's nothing in here. So what ends up happening with these, in order to eliminate that startle response that she was referring to, we will put these in a magazine with live rounds. And so what the shooter actually has to do, I coined the term mystery mag. I tell them, you're getting a mystery mag. You don't know if it's going to be a dummy round or a live round. Your goal is to hold that gun perfectly still when you go out. All right? And so they'll get the boom, 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 and then they'll get the click, and they'll see that they're pushing that gun. It's unperceivable when you get the boom that you're actually pushing up against that. So they'll clear the malfunction, because this is going to remain in the chamber. There's nothing to get this out of there. So you have to clear it at that point and come back up on target with the boom, 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 click, and it'll get less and less because they see that they're pushing that gun and they're trying to wrap their head around it. When we start them off with the dummy rounds, I will fill the whole magazine with dummy rounds and maybe put 2 live rounds in it, just so they get used to that click and holding that gun perfectly still. Click. And when it does go boom, you'll see their eyes get big, but that bullet will be bullseye.
Because they were expecting the click.
Right. They were expecting the click when that goes off.
And it's a great training technique to get rid of that flinch response, that startle response.
Right.
So.
Yeah. There's really not a big. Well, I'll tell you, the big secret to shooting accurately: line up your sights on your target. Don't move the gun when you pull the trigger. That's it.
There's no magic. It's not.
Yeah.
It's how much do you practice that is what it comes down to.
awesome.
Just a brand new shooter, just to get used to the aspect of the gun without being overbearing and scaring them away from the gun. Be like, that sucked. I don't want anything to do with that. So this was our solution to that. Let me show you guys this. All right. So I'm gonna pull out one of these guns. I'm just gonna show it to you. I'm gonna keep it down range. This,
unloaded, Bill.
this. So we got 0 in the chamber, no magazine. This is called the chamber check, magazine check, right?
Chamber clear, mag well clear.
All right. And in some realms, you have a partner double check all the time. All right. And you might not have that convenience if you're out here by yourself, but it's always a good idea. All right. So what we have here is a Glock model 44. This is chambered to 22 long rifle. This is the exact replica of a Glock 19, which is chambered to 9mm. This gun weighs probably a third of what a Glock weighs. The slide is polymer. That's the weight difference. All right. But this operates just like a regular Glock. So in a 22 caliber, very friendly, very easy to shoot, very cost efficient round, you can train on a Glock 19, which is this is the exact replica. All right. And you could do it at a very minimal cost because the 22 long rifle rounds are probably about a third of what a 9mm round would cost you, right? So conceivably, this is going to pop into any Glock holster that's a double stack, full frame holster, and you can shoot for very cheap. For a beginner, this is no recoil, very little pop, very easy gun. These are very fun guns to shoot. So when we bring beginners out, these Glock Model 44s is what we start them off on, so they can get the mechanics of locking the slide to the rear, checking the chamber, checking the magazine, loading the magazine, how to make this gun ready. If they pick up a Glock 19, everything will operate exactly the same. All right, so just wanted to show you guys these.
That's the good news. Bad news is if you're a California citizen, this is not law enforcement, but California citizen, you cannot purchase that gun because it is considered off roster in California. If you live in most other states in our great country, you could purchase that gun because they don't have those type of rules. We have a whole list, basically with Glock is up to what, Gen 5 now? Yeah. As far as their generations of guns that they put out. And for the average citizen, the newest that we can purchase is a Generation 3. Generation 4, Generation 5, which this falls under, it's considered off roster. Wow. The guns that I taught it
all over because that's my carry gun.
Prior to this.
Now this is a what?
This is a Glock Model 26.
Okay. Subcompact.
Subcompact.
Horrible. They don't act.
This
like
is
any gun
the
that's
Model
on the
44.
market.
So let me close the slide on this
and
so we can
here
get an
you're
accurate
teaching beginners,
comparison.
This is how this works, the safety
So
and stuff
this
coming
Model
down,
44 is
goes up,
actually
you know.
bigger than the subcompact.
They're originally a British
It is the
company.
exact same size as the next
Yeah.
one up,
That's
which is a
actually
Glock
like
19
what
that's
we say
chambered in 9mm. This one happens to be chambered
But
in
it-
22.
As an instructor,
All right. What
I'm
I
sitting
want
here
you to
telling these
do
people,
is feel the
and
weight
people would
difference.
leave that class and
This
they'd
looks
go
like it's
purchase
going to be a
one.
heavy gun
They're like,
until
you
you
don't
pick
want
it up
this as a-
because the
you don't
frame
want
is
this to-
or the
this, you know,
slide
to
is actually
rely
polymer
for
because it's a
safety.
22. It doesn't need the heavy duty
It's much
metal
less than a
frame
lot of the-
to control
Well, I
that
just
round
took a class
coming
with
out of there.
him.
So
Yay.
this Model 44,
But now if
lightweight
online,
gun,
they
excellent
wanna buy
shooting
a
gun,
Glock or XD
perfect for
or
beginners.
SIG,
However, in
Doesn't have
California,
anything like-
it's
unless
a
you got
whole
special
different
credentials,
Yeah.
have
you
to
cannot get
relearn
this. It's an
everything.
off-road gun.
So when you're working with a semi-auto, this is not a revolver. Revolver is a little different. When you talk about where you place your trigger finger on the trigger, with a revolver, that ends up being back here at that first knuckle right there. For semi-auto, what you want to do is you actually want to see that little fatty part right there, and that's where you want the placement of your trigger. If you end up placing the trigger too far forward or too far back, you're going to have a difference in the placement of the round, or the bullet on the target. So let's give this a try. I'm loaded. Okay, so I'm going to place it in too far. So as I go to pull, what's going to happen, assuming, is this is going to pull to the right. And so instead of being on target, okay, you can see it went off to the right. And you can see I've got my first knuckle in there. Right there. Way too far. Too much trigger finger. So let's try this again. And actually, that even caused a problem. Let me try to do. Now I'm aiming. Oops, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I'll try to push it a little bit more. I'm sorry, Scott. This is not working the way I want it to. There it is. On the 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's actually pushing with the trigger finger being not far enough in. If it's actually on the fatty part, what I should get. Assuming that I do everything right. That was interesting. That was interesting. I wasn't with a smaller gun. You're going to see a lot more play with that.
Okay.
As far as what's going on with reading the target.
Okay.
So when we work with students, generally what we can do is as I look at their target and they have their holes, we come up and we say, okay, well, all of your holes are doing this, and this is basically what's going on with you. You either have, like for instance, if all those holes are pulling to the right, we're going to start looking at their trigger finger, and are you actually pulling it? They're pushing them all to the left. Are you pushing on that trigger? Or are you squeezing? They're all down that lower corner. Do we have a flinch problem? Are they all over the place? Okay, and that generally is, we call it the prairie dog. So what people are doing at that point is they're shooting, and then they're looking where they're shooting, and then they shoot again, and then they want to look. And so what we tell people is, as you're training, you want to be sure that you are focused in on that front sight. Shoot your course of fire, staying focused on the front sight. Put the gun away, then look at your target. Those holes aren't going anywhere.
Gotcha. So are we clear? We can approach the target and
Yes,
take a look at
yes.
our rounds?
Absolutely.
All right.
So this one was had too much trigger finger, and it was actually pulling the gun to the right.
Okay.
This one was pushing. This one was dead on, and then those two, I'm not even quite sure how I'd explain those.
Outstanding. Thank you for the demo.
Hey, no problem. We have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, bring it up to eyesight level, push out. One of the things that we should cover as far as legalities, whether you're a gun owner and you're just worried about home defense, or whether you are CCW, you are all only shooting to stop the threat. That's it.